to ALMA, the Armenian Library Museum of America. We're located in Watertown, Massachusetts, which is one of the largest Armenian communities in the United States. We originally were founded as a library with a museum as an afterthought. That's why the name of it is the Armenian Library Museum. But in point of fact, the museum has grown so vast that it dominates the institution. In 1994, I made a very large exhibit in this gallery of the genocide. It was the most successful exhibit I've ever done. The most difficult one I've ever done, too. I'd wake up in cold sweats in the middle of the night when I'm working on it because just trying to deal with the subject matter is devastating. But when the exhibit was up, we had people that were collapsing in the gallery. They would bring elderly survivors in here, and they have anxiety attacks in the museum and just keel right over when they saw the exhibit because it was brought back such vivid memories. We had one woman here who was in her 90s, a survivor. She spent 2 hours in the gallery, very quietly looking at every object, reading every placard, stopping and reflecting the whole time. After 2 hours, she got to the exit. She was about to leave. She hesitated, and she suddenly turned around, and she began screaming at the top of her lungs and pounding the walls in rage. And she had repressed what happened to her family, all these years. And this brought her all at once. Her family was quite shocked at her. They'd never seen her act like this before. After that exhibit was scheduled to close, and it was, like I said, it was a very large, extensive exhibit, we had a lot of pressure from some of the community to keep it up permanently. But if we had done that, this would have turned this museum into the Armenian Genocide Museum. And that's not our purpose. Our purpose is to show all of Armenian history, not just the genocide itself. So we compromised making a smaller exhibit on the second floor on the genocide. And the exhibit design upstairs was very deliberate, the location of it, so that no matter where you're in the gallery, no matter what other exhibit is here, in the corner of your eye, the genocide exhibit is up there. You can see the words, the Armenian Genocide. And this represents the psychological profile of the modern Armenian, and that no matter what you do, you have that baggage of the genocide. We all carry it. And this is something that we all have to live with. And so we were trying to replicate this kind of, in a very physical sense, the way that the psychology of the modern Armenian. And this is a memorial that is, we assume that the person here knows about the genocide, knows the details about it. We're not trying to explain it from A to Z. The idea of the corridor was to replicate the way they were herded, basically like cattle on the trails going to the desert. And so here you're being herded by the walls rather than by the guards. This boy's costume was taken off a dead 8-year-old that died of starvation at Deir ez-Zor. An American missionary buried the corpse because there were so many corpses that they had outbreaks of typhus and cholera. And so the Americans went around, the missionaries, and tried to bury the corpses in order to keep the disease down. And when this missionary, Helen Gooderson, when she buried this corpse, she kept the costume as a keepsake of what she'd seen. This dog collar was in the exhibit too. And so this is basically a place to sit and reflect. Like I said, it's not a didactic exhibit. Over here is a few more materials related to the genocide. Each night, bands of marauders would hit these caravans to drag off and rape the women.
Either starve them to death and work them to death in the fields, or anybody who did not die, they were shot in the fields. In the country so-called Turkey today, where the Armenian people were, and with Assyrians, Armenians were the original people, had become minorities in their own country, because Turkey, the Ottoman Empire, became such a strong empire that they basically absorbed all the lands. And the people, the original people of those lands, became minorities.
If you wanted to create a very large Turkish state, well, you needed to get rid of the Armenian population. They were the largest population there that was not going to assimilate, it was not going to become Turkish.
Anyone who was in position to be a leader were gathered together, and they were killed on April 24, 1915.
Most of the top intelligentsia of the country was concentrated at one city, so it was easy to lop off the head of the community in one fell swoop.
And then they took the men and the women, I mean the women, the children, and the elderly, and they told them that we would like to move you to safer places. And they moved them into big caravans, walking caravans. They took them into the Deir Zor deserts. Most of the women and the children died in the desert from starvation, and there was also they were raping the women, and they were killing them, and they were selling the young girls to Arab Bedouins and sheiks for their harems.
Some scholar, and I forgot who it was, said, you know, the last stage of genocide is denial. And denial perpetuates genocide, and genocide won't stop, and the feeling of being victims won't stop until there is acceptance and apology and reparation.
The only country which really denies the genocide is the perpetrators themselves, the Turkish people.
Armenians are very frustrated because 90 some odd years after the Armenian Genocide took place, Turkey denies it, America officially denies it, and much of the world has forgotten about it. If you remember what Hitler said before he went into Poland, he said, "Who today remembers the massacres of the Armenians?" Meaning that if you forget things like this, if history forgets things like this, then sure enough, they're going to happen over and over and over again.